Hello everyone, Neil Patel here. Thank you for downloading the latest episode of the Indian Startup Show. Today I speak to Vineet Rajan. When he was 5 years old, his dad took him on his first ever road trip, and now he is the co-founder of Scout My Trip. It's a platform and planner for road trips anywhere in India. They're doing really well. Talk about how we got 5,000 signups before launching, being part of a tech accelerator, mistakes he has made on the way to being profitable. We also talk about amazing road trips you can try, his passion for riding his Royal Enfield bike around India, and much, much more. I really enjoyed talking to Vineet, and I hope you enjoy listening to it as well. Thank you. Hello Vineet, thank you for coming on the show today.
Hi Neil, a pleasure to be here talking to you on your podcast.
Please tell the listeners what you're building.
So we are building Scout My Trip. Mm-hmm. We are India's first end-to-end road trip community platform. We are about road trips like the name mentions, and we're about scouting your road trips better. What it essentially allows you to do is, before you hit the road, you're able to chart out your entire route very effectively by figuring out where you want to take halts, where you want to fill your fuel, which are the possible restrooms you can use, which are neat and clean, which restaurants you can eat in, which may offer a cuisine of your choice, which roads are better, which roads are more scenic, and we power this entire thing through a community of users who are giving it information all the time. Mm-hmm. So it's not just routing, what typically a Google Map kind of app will do. It's much more than that, and it's like it says, it's all about road trips.
Mm-hmm. Sounds fun. How did you come up with the idea?
So interesting story. So me and my co-founder Deepak, we have done a lot of road trips together. We rode the iconic Royal Enfield. We still have those bikes, and we take them out for a spin at the drop of a hat. And when we, started working on Scout My Trip, the intention was kind of selfish because we wanted to make our road trips better. Mm-hmm. And the more we actually dwelled into it, and we started, realizing that there is a huge need for something like this. Mm-hmm. So, it started off as a personal project, a passion project, but we realized that this is far bigger than just the two of us. Mm-hmm. And that's when we actually got really involved in sizing the industry. And we figured that this is easily a $16 billion market in India alone. Mm-hmm. And I'm not even looking at markets like US in this sizing. Mm-hmm. So if I include US and Europe, we are talking of $100 billion easily. Mm-hmm. For leisure road trips. Mm-hmm. So this was a big market for us, and that's when we decided to quit what we were doing back then. Mm-hmm. And get into Scout My Trip and build this platform. Mm-hmm. And we haven't regretted that decision at all. I mean, when we started Scout My Trip, we had between the two of us done 500,000 kilometers on our bikes, and now we are actually gunning towards 1 million kilometers with the entire team put together, because everyone in the team is a traveler, is a road tripper. So the more we speak to travelers, the more we speak to other communities, other biking forums, we realize that we are actually hitting the nail on its head, making people road trip better.
Mm-hmm. How's it going so far? Can you share some stats?
Sure. To begin, we incorporated in April 2016. Mm-hmm. And before we launched the product, we had done something called an insider access. Mm-hmm. And this was just for people to apply to see what it's about. Mm-hmm. Just for the insider access without a product, we got over 5,000 people to sign up. Okay. And that was an eye-opener, because we realized, hey, this is something people really, actual consumers needed. It's not just our immediate circles. Mm-hmm. That was, a good this thing for us. When we launched in December 2016 and till now, we have had over 35,000 people who have joined our platform, joined our community. 2018 February, we became operationally profitable. Mm-hmm. So we are actually in a growth phase at this point. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty quick, considering that travel is a hugely competitive space in India. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of dominated by online travel agents like Make My Trip and Clear Trip. Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
So that's been good story for us in terms of growth. And yeah, a bit of a help came along our way in April 2017 when Z Nation Lab, which is a Silicon Valley based accelerator, invested in us. And that's again really helped us in our growth story.
Why do you think they invested in you? Because obviously a lot of companies try and get investment.
Yes, I think one of the reasons why they kind of invested was because me and Deepak have a lot of experience when it comes to travel. And I think they just saw that we are converting our passion into something that's going to really help other travelers. So whenever, we kind of speak to anybody about travel, about road trips, 9 out of 10 times they come back and saying just talking to you gives us goosebumps, because we're able to romanticize the road so well that they kind of actually get lost in that story that we tell them about Scout My Trip. And that's the truth. I mean, Deepak and I met on the highway, on the road.
Literally on the highway.
Literally on the highway. And this is not the first time we're working together. So we have actually been part of a lot of biking groups, a lot of travel groups in the past. And we've had the opportunity of even running a biking club in Bombay.
Okay.
So we have had experience of working in the past. We have we have known each other's bikes longer than we've known each other's wives. Okay. So I think the biggest reason is probably the team, because that's what an investor looks in. Because a good idea, can even that can be replicated. But I feel a team is very hard to replicate, especially the founding team.
How did the platform change then during your time at the accelerator? And how did you feel about it?
Yeah, I think the kind of mentorship we got from Z Nation Labs was very instrumental for us to even pivot at the right times. Okay. When we started off, we were kind of a forked version of Google Maps. And we have, with their guidance, kind of evolved to such an extent that right now we are actively looking at becoming the Uber for travel experts. Okay. So when I say we are planning to become the Uber for travel experts, there are a lot of individual people across India. And I'm not referring to travel agents. These are individual people who have their own circle of, people who could be, say, a taxi operator, who could be a hotel provider or a resort or a homestay, people in their ecosystem. We are bringing these people onto Scout My Trip. And when somebody comes to us saying that they want to go to a very remote corner or any place for that matter in India, it's this travel expert who actually does the entire fulfillment. So what's happening is, through Scout My Trip as a platform, we are enabling that individual travel expert to monetize his expertise, his local connections, and look at it as a main way for him to earn a livelihood, which has been hugely successful thanks to the kind of guidance we got from our accelerator.
What would you say is the key takeaway then from the accelerator?
I think the key takeaway for any accelerator program is the network you're immediately part of. That is, I think, the biggest takeaway. It's not the money. It's purely the connections and the mentorship that they give you. So I think that way their involvement has been very high. And they've been very supportive in terms of what we do. And I think they kind of understood our vision of what we want to do, why we want to do, things this way. Because a lot of times what happens is, when you talk of a community, typically it is associated with, smaller sizes, smaller numbers. The way we have worked with Scout My Trip is that the community is not the be all and end all. I could be a traveler and I just want to go somewhere, and I could still use the platform without actually joining the community. So it allows, a non-involved traveler, if I may use that word, to also use the services. But if somebody really wants to go deep in, he can always access the community. And that's kind of working for us, because the word of mouth we have seen for Scout My Trip in the last, 2 years has been phenomenal. Because all these people are just coming together and they're just taking us the distance.
So how are you getting customers to your platform then? Is it email or social media? What's working for you?
Glad you asked that actually. So there are two key drivers in terms of how people are finding us. One is search, and I've always believed in the power of search engines. So we focus a lot on creating content which actual travelers will use, or actually see our blog. It's full of information about making road trips better, and these are all written by us or by our team. So there is a lot of knowledge we bring in from our expertise as well. That is that is the one place where we see the highest continuous increase in terms of traffic to Scout My Trip. The second thing that we have done very effectively is leveraging influencer networks. Um, so we work with a lot of travel bloggers in India, and they have actually really added a lot of user content on the web, which points back to us. So these two put together have actually really propelled us from, just being another travel startup to a travel startup people can really find information about if they're just searching for routes. In India, we are on top of the charts when you search for road trips, when you search for road trip planners. So that way we are right on top, and thankfully because of that we haven't really invested much on paid advertising as much as other travel startups would do.
Cool. Well, let's talk about road trips then. What was your first ever road trip then? Where did you go?
My first ever road trip was when I was a little kid. I was 5 years old, and my dad woke me up and he just shoved me into his car.
Okay, sounds scary.
I mean, my dad always, had that streak. He'll wake up one day and he'll decide it's time to go somewhere. And in one of those trips is when I learned how to drive. I was 18 years old, and my dad decided we need to go for a road trip. He woke me up in his usual way at 5:30 in the morning, and he said, "Vineet, let's go. We're hitting the road." And that's when I learned how to drive. I'd just I'd not even got my license. A word of advisory: don't drive without a license. But since I've brought it up, so I learned to drive the car on a road trip, which went on for 8 days, and we covered close to around 2,000 kilometers. That's over 1,500 miles. We covered that much distance over 8 days, and that was one of the most memorable road trips I had. We stayed in bed and breakfast on the highways, wherever we went. And that's probably one road trip that I'll never forget. That's when I learned how to drive.
What are the popular destinations then for road trips in India?
Yeah, in India, I think the most iconic road trip is a road trip to Ladakh. The government has also been actively trying to improve tourism there. They're building better roads, they're building tunnels which actually cut through the mountains, and they're very, very harsh mountains, in terms of weather and road conditions. So that is one of the most iconic road trips, I feel. But for somebody who's really looking to go offbeat, Northeast is again a place which is really for those crazy adventure seekers. That's a destination that people are really looking at now. And there have been a lot of activities in the Northeast, like the Zero Music Festival, the Hornbill Festival, which is actively promoting tourists from all over India, and not just India, actually all over the world, to come down to those states. And all these places are accessible only by road trips. So, and then of course, you have those iconic places like the Bombay-Goa highway, which is something that everybody wants to do. You have the Kanyakumari to Kashmir, which is close to around 2,500, 3,000 kilometers. And it's one road which takes you right from the tip of the country to right to the top of the country. These are some iconic road trips that, everybody dreams of doing. But having said that, it's not just these long distances. When studies were done and when we also studied the market, we realized that 60% of all trips today are road trips.
Okay.
That's a huge number. And most of them are weekend getaways.
Yeah.
Weekend getaways in a 100 to 300 odd kilometers, a place we can go, relax, chill out, see a couple of things and have a good time and come back.
Sounds
those
good.
are the places, those are the markets which are actually very big in terms of number.
Any tips for first-time road trippers?
Yeah, I mean, here is where,
Obviously, use
I
your
really,
website.
no, I'm not even saying that. What I'm saying is, for a first-time road tripper, he or she should have access to a community which can guide him better.
Hmm.
That could be any community. I'm not saying you need to use Scout My Trip as a community, but for any first-timer, they should have access to others who can advise them on the things they should do and not do. That's very important. Uh, the other thing is they also need to understand their limitations. As an individual, you'll have both physical and mental limits. So, one thing we advise is never drive beyond 8 hours in a day for a first timer. The eight is like the upper limit. Never drive in the night. So these are simple things, but there is such a long list, which is why I said they should ideally connect to a community which can help them better. And for that reason, since you bring it up, Neil, we started an offline community as well called the Road Trippers Club. And Road Trippers Club is essentially for people, who want to hit the roads but want to hit the road in the safety of numbers.
Yeah.
So the Road Trippers Club, we started off with the Mumbai chapter since we're kind of based here, and we do trips, 2 to 3 overnight trips every month. So just about every weekend we're actually on the road with a bunch of 10 to 15 families, pets, kids, all hitting the road together, and they're all kind of very safe, saying that there are other people to look after me, and if there is anything that happens, they're there to take care of me, and they get to learn a lot in terms of how do you negotiate a curve, how do you brake your vehicle using just the engine and not your brake, simple things like this that every road tripper needs to know. So that is something that we're evolving as we go. There are other things also that we have been working on from a traveler perspective, like uh, the government of India introduced something called a DigiLocker. DigiLocker essentially is a way for you to get access to your documents digitally. It's not just uploading a scanned document, but using the DigiLocker, you have immediate access to your license, to your vehicle registration papers, and these are in a couple of states have already have started accepting them as a valid document. We recently integrated with the DigiLocker, and making us the first India's first private travel company to do that. So that was a big achievement for us because we realized that even the big guys haven't done it. So, and when we started doing this, it was an eye opener. A number of people have actually joined us after we integrated with DigiLocker has been great, and all of them are first time users. Here again, we bring them back into the community in terms of really advising them how they should plan their road trips better.
So it seems everything's going well. Is there anything you worry about? Any things that keep you up at night?
Yes, every startup has its ups and downs, and some of the things that keep me up at night are, when I go back to thinking if I could have done something better. And I think that is good and bad in a way, because it can't be something that drives you all the time, because if you keep looking at the past and things that didn't work, it also does not allow you to look into the future. Since you bring it up, one of the mistakes that we did, and I would advise every founder not to do this, is if you are building a technology startup, never ever outsource it. And that was a cardinal mistake we did. We had outsourced our technology, being a travel technology startup. And that really, hampered our growth in terms of how quickly we were able to address consumer demands.
What excites you most about doing this startup?
I think just the fact that I'm able to do something I've been so passionate about. And it inspires me to just talk to other travelers, because there's so much that I learn from them. And I feel that Scout My Trip has given me that opportunity to connect with so many other travelers, which I would not have probably been able to had I just been part of biking clubs. Because now I'm talking to people who want to travel with their pets, who want to travel with their kids, who want to buy bigger cars, or who might want to buy a smaller car. So there is this entire varied set of people I'm able to interact to, and that's really opening up the way I look at the world today.
What does your dad think about this then? Because obviously he took you on your first trip at five years old.
My dad has been, so supportive in this entire thing. I still know he's a road tripper at heart.
Yeah.
Although he hasn't taken his car out in a while now, he's kind of old, and he's gone into teaching now.
Okay.
But I know my dad, has a good sleep every day, knowing that I'm doing what, he wanted me to do. He was the one who shoved me in the car when I was that young, and I decided not to get out of the car after that. So, so I'm sure he's very happy, and yeah. And the fact that we became operationally profitable a couple of months back. Any parent kind of worries about what their kid does, but my parents have been very supportive. I have a very supportive family, my wife, who have been there through everything that the choices we made, and I can only thank all of them for this.
What qualities do you think are required to be an entrepreneur? What main quality do you think is needed?
Yeah, so I feel that there has to be some risk-taking ability, appetite. A lot of my friends also, they always were like, I want to make some money right now, so I can save up and then I start something. I feel that is the biggest trap a would-be entrepreneur can ever get into, because there is never a right time. It has to be a conscious decision that I want to do something now. And that's what I did even with my first venture. That was kind of when I was still in college, and we all started this venture called Indie Blogger, which is the largest network of Indian bloggers. And the decision was simple: we need to do this. That was the end of it, because a lot of times what happens is that you have an idea and you never see it through. And you can never do it, because what happens is every stage of life you keep evolving. You first will buy a house, and that's typically a problem in the Indian society. Everyone is pressured to buy a house, buy a car, get married. Once you get into that life cycle of yours, it becomes very hard to actually take a risky decision. So without waiting, one has to take a decision saying, I need to do this. That's the first thing that I feel every entrepreneur should keep in mind. You have an idea, go out and do it. Because 9 out of 10 times things do fall in place if you're just very, very diligent and you're smart about it. I know startups fail all the time. But if you're smart about it, if you take a decision to follow through it, I'm sure things will succeed. So you just need to keep your ears and eyes open. That's the first thing I would advise anybody who wants to become an entrepreneur.
When's your next road trip then?
My next road trip is, as soon as, okay, so as part of the Road Trippers Club.
It's Sunday, right? So get on your bike.
Yeah, the road trip is as simple as kickstarting my bike and just hitting the road. But there are 3 or 4 road trips that I'm going for the coming weeks. Every weekend I'm actually out.
Oh, nice.
There's even a night photography I'm planning to do mid of next month. And we're going to a forest reserve with my wife. That's for her birthday.
Okay.
That's also a road trip. So there is quite a few road trips planned. Thankfully, I'm in a job which allows me to continue doing these road trips.
And what is it about the Royal Enfield? That's quite a famous bike, right?
Oh yeah, it is a bike that has really changed me. I think a part of Scout My Trip also, I need to owe the existence to the Royal Enfield bike that I own. I lovingly call her Letitia.
Letitia, okay, that's a nice name.
That's her name. She has taken me across the length and breadth of this country. Done a lot of kilometers on her. My wife and I, both of us, love hitting the road on it. She hasn't let us down so far. But she does demand a lot of attention, and that's one of the reasons I decided that my bike is actually a girl, because she demands so much of attention.
Needs lots of attention.
So, but it is a bike that I would recommend to anybody who wants to tour the country, because it's something that you can fix yourself if you just know how. There's very little of electronics. There is more of mechanics. And that's one of the reasons why I say you don't own a Royal Enfield, the Royal Enfield owns you.
I suppose it helps that your co-founder is a fan of the Enfield bikes as well, right?
Oh yes, he runs. He owns, or I'd say that the bike which owns him, its name is Thea. That's
Okay.
again a so yeah, it's kind of a joke between us that the people we actually married to are second wives,
Okay.
because the first wives are a Royal Enfield. So, so yeah, it teaches you a lot. I think road tripping has prepared us for an entrepreneurial journey, because it has taught us qualities like patience.
Mhm.
When your bike goes down, when you need to coordinate with so many other people, I think patience is a virtue that road trips have taught us.
Mhm.
The second thing that it has really, really taught us, for our entrepreneurial journey is teamwork.
Mhm.
I think none of the road trips that we did with 50 people, 100 people would have been possible without understanding team dynamics and teamwork.
Mhm.
And those are things that only road trips will teach you.
Mhm.
It even teaches you how to really endure a few things, so that you can just look at the light at the end of the tunnel. There have been situations where we have actually, um, for various reasons, have had to ride in extremely painful conditions, just because we really had to go to a safer place.
Mhm.
And I feel that road trips is a beautiful way to not just discover yourself as an individual, but to discover yourself in terms of an entrepreneurship potential,
Mhm.
as a leader. What is it in you that can really inspire others? And I can only thank the two wheels that I kind of ride for teaching me those qualities.
Mhm. Mhm. What would this business look like in like 5 years time then, or 5 to 10 years time then, in your opinion?
Um, I feel, see, right now, also in the space of road trips, along with Scout My Trip, there are a few other ventures which are doing this.
Mm.
And that's a very good sign, because more people are now showing interest. We're growing the category as a whole of road trips. Telling people that they need to hit the road more often in a car or on a bike, rather than just flying somewhere. In 5 years' time, I see that this entire ecosystem is there's going to be some consolidation,
Mhm.
because already vehicle manufacturers have started putting devices, consoles in the car, which allow people to actually plan a trip better,
Yeah.
not just routing. That is one. The second thing is, in terms of enabling a lot of elements on the highway. For example, your petrol pumps are there. There are roadside eateries are there, restaurants are there. I think a bit of consolidation is going to happen in the space in the next 5 years, where all of these can actually become part of an ecosystem for road trips. And it could be sitting straight out of your own car or your bike. I think that has been our movement also as Scout My Trip, to work in that direction. Um, so in one line, we say that we want to be part of a road trip from your dashboard to a restaurant. But having said that, this market, I do personally feel it's up for a boom. While the travel space is growing at more than 8 to 9% year on year, this has been an evergreen industry. I don't think travel at any point of time has really suffered because of a recession.
Mm.
People are still traveling, they're finding cheaper ways to travel. And I feel road trips can actually address that space, because if you're able to really plan this better, optimize your trips better, it can actually be at very cheap fare.
Yeah. So I reckon you've been to most places in India.
Yeah.
Is there any places left?
Yes, there is actually. There are a couple of trips I still want to do. One is I want to ride from the easternmost part of India, called Kibitu, which is in Arunachal Pradesh.
Mhm.
It's right at the China border,
Okay.
and I want to ride right up to the westernmost point of India, which is Koteshwar,
Wow.
which is in Gujarat, which overlooks Pakistan on the other side. So that is one trip I want to do on my bike.
How long will that
And
take?
that should probably take around a month.
Wow.
Actually, if you want to do this without really putting too much stress on the bike or yourself, but you can do it in a lesser time. But I don't want to do that, because I think that defeats the purpose of a road trip, because then you're doing it just for the destination. I feel road trips are about the journey, not the destination. That is one trip I'm really looking forward to, if you ask me.
Actually, do you have any business heroes or people you
Um,
admire?
I actually do. I admire Bill Gates. And I remember when I was this again, my dad at work, he bought me Bill Gates' book, and I devoured it.
Mhm.
And I think the stuff he wrote in his book, The Road Ahead, and how things have actually the stuff that he spoke about, how they've actually come true. speaks so much about a man who has that vision. And I really do look up to him in terms of all that he's done in this space. I know he's not a person who's into travel, but as a business leader, I think for me he's right on top.
Cool. And how did you meet your co-founder again?
Yes, so I was actually riding my bike on the western coast of India, and my bike had broken down, and Deepak happened to be riding with a few of his buddies.
Okay.
And I'd parked my bike on the side, and he's like, "Hey, what's the issue?" I said, "My bike isn't really working, so that's kind of my problem right now." So, and he kind of helped out, and then I continued my journey with the rest of his gang, and we decided to stay in touch. A couple of years down the line, we kind of became part of the founding team of a biking club, and we got involved there, and we ran the show for a few years. And then we started, that's when we really got access to a lot of other biking clubs, a lot of other travelers, and kind of expanded our immediate community and immediate reach as well, our circle. So that's how we met. And talking of Deepak, he's been in the corporate space for a very long time. He was a payments professional before he got into Scout My Trip.
Yeah.
He was the director for Verifone, which is one of the largest payment organizations in the world. He was the director for Indian operations. So he left everything at a very, very prime position in his life, and he got into Scout My Trips. That also kind of reiterated the fact that if he could do it at that stage of his life, definitely there's something more to this.
What was it like when you told everyone you were quitting your job to do this business?
See, for me, actually, it wasn't a big transition because my first venture was also, I was always in the startup phase. So for me, it was absolutely nothing new. It was, in a way, I was in my comfort zone where there is no comfort because with startups, things are very dynamic. You never know what's going to happen next. There are a lot of constraints you work under. So for me, it was nothing new. But for, I think, Deepak, he took it head on. And the way he has actually learned, along the way as in a startup, applied what he learned in his corporate life. I think that, again, gave a lot of confidence to our investors and whoever we speak to. Just because of his corporate experience of running very, very large organizations. I mean, in Verifone, his immediate reporting team was close to around 100 people. And he was managing a business worth quite a few $1 million in India alone. So that's all experience that's kind of, helping us at this point.
Do you think anyone can be an entrepreneur then? It seems everyone's doing a startup in India.
In a way that is true, and it's also good. But my beef with this thing of everyone calling themselves an entrepreneur is how they define their startup. A lot of people actually start businesses, and when I say businesses, it could be a shop or it could be a service that they're rendering, and they call themselves an entrepreneur of a startup. I feel startup is an organization that you create which adds some very unique value, which is probably not being done by others. That is how I would define an entrepreneur and a startup. Now, if you look at it through that lens, it's actually not that everybody is an entrepreneur or claims to be an entrepreneur. Maybe that's not true. But I think with the push that the government is doing, and I think with the overall environment here in terms of creating a business and being able to, quickly start your venture is all good. It's the normal cycle. There'll be a lot of startups that will come up. A few will survive, they will thrive, and the rest of it will either get acquired or weeded out. It's all good because I think the more people who start ventures, businesses, startups, we have more jobs we're creating. And I think that's how we need to really look at it. I also feel that anybody can be an entrepreneur if they have the right frame of mind. Even when I say the right frame of mind, they need to essentially know a bit about how to run a business. You can't spend $10 and earn only 5. That is the first thing that I feel every entrepreneur should know. And the present startup environment in India is not allowing entrepreneurs to raise too much of money without really giving a statement of their expenses and accounts. So that's something that investors have also learned over the past few years based on some mistakes that have happened. So investors are asking for statement of accounts of every penny that's spent. So that's one good thing that's happening. So entrepreneurs are also very careful of how they spend their money. Instead of spending investor money on discounts, they're spending money on how to acquire more customers smartly, which is where I think this entire this thing of growth hacking is really, really picked up. More and more people are trying to hack ways of growth where they're spending less money, getting the most bang for the buck. So having a decent, business acumen is very important if you want to become a successful entrepreneur. The second thing, like I said, you need to have a risk-taking appetite. If you don't have a risk-taking appetite, I don't think anybody can survive in the startup world. Because if you're always in the safe zone, it is better to start a business wherein you are looking for customers, you earn some money, you save that money, and you go out of this thing. You continue your life like that. Startups can't work like that because a lot of times there are people, who are looking up to you. Could be your employees, could be your investors. There are a lot of other stakeholders involved here.
Excellent. Okay, last question for people who want more information on Scout My Trip. What must they do?
I think the best way is to just log on to scoutmytrip.com, and I can be reached on Twitter. I'm pretty active there. So you can connect with me on Royal Enfielder on Twitter. That's my Twitter handle. That's how much I love the bike. And that's the best way to reach us. Scoutmytrip.com or tweet to me on Royal Enfielder.
Excellent. Vineet, thank you for coming on the show today. Much appreciated.
Thanks a lot, Neil. Thanks. Been a pleasure talking to you, and hope to have you in India sometime for a road trip. And if not India, hopefully by end of this year, we should be in Europe.
Oh, cool. I look forward to it then.
Oh, yes.
I'll get my leathers and helmet and Royal Enfield bike.
If not a bike, a good car will do.
Okay. Okay. Cheers, buddy.
Yeah. Thanks, Neil. Thanks so much.
Cheers. Thanks to Vineet for coming on the show today. Thank you for supporting the podcast. I shall be back next week. If you want to come on the show, email me hello@neilpatel.co or tweet @IndianStartupSH, or please go to facebook.com/IndianStartupShow. Love to connect. Thank you and goodbye.